hope, acceptance, responsibility. These are all tenets of Superman. This is what we draw inspiration from, a model of excellence, dedication, and moral good. We are often engaged in a conversation about how Clark should be portrayed, or why certain adaptations don't work, or even what the character means to us as individuals. In many ways, within the DCU and in our world, he stands as a symbol, someone that inspires all of us to do better. But why don't we see the same in Supergirl? Her story mirrors Clark in many ways, but she's not Clark. Clark is in many ways more human than Kryptonian. Like finding out your heritage when you've been adopted. You feel strongly about it, but there's that disconnect. Clark feels comfort in humanity because his whole life has been here. But Kara was in her teens when Krypton blew up, and in many ways is a more tragic character because of it. When Gunn announced a slate of projects for Chapter 1 of the DCU, there was a mixed bag of projects from The Return of Superman to a Batman and Robin film, which I plan to discuss as I feel the movie is essential to the growth of the Batman brand. Other projects like Swamp Thing, The Creature Commandos, and a diverse TV lineup like The Lanterns and Booster Gold that will serve to help build the world of the DCU. But one project that stood out to me was the adaptation of Tom King's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Woman of Tomorrow was a miniseries written by Tom King, released in August of 2021 and finishing up in April of 2022. It details the journey of Supergirl as she helps Ruthie pursue her father's killer through space, interspersed with character details about Supergirl's personality and a revised origin tale. What made this book impactful for me is that it really defined how Kara processed her trauma into the hero that she is, and more importantly set her apart from her famous cousin. DC's renewed focus on Supergirl, including the appearance in the upcoming Flash, and more so because a new Superman movie is in the works, makes it important more than ever that this movie is a success, as it really ties into the future of DC. I'll break this down into 3 parts, each will really dictate the long-term future of DC. The first is story. Second, the need for representation of strong female leads and heroes. And finally, the expansion of the Superman mythos, including the Superman family.
Storytelling is always king. That's all that matters to us. And I want to be true to those stories. I want to be true to you guys and really give you something different than you've ever seen before.
Story is king, or so we've been told. But if we're being honest, comic book movies, and more specifically DC, have had issues with telling proper stories. As comic book movies continue to become mainstream, they have come to a point where spectacle isn't enough. The story needs to evolve and become deeper than what it currently is. The characters need to progress and have proper story arcs where they become more relatable to the audience watching the movies. Comic book readers have had a fundamental understanding of these characters, but the general audience doesn't. We've seen many films fail in this respect in cases like Black Adam or Wonder Woman 84. Even Batman himself, despite having the most individual movies of any other comic character save Spider-Man, seems dated and has overly relied on older storylines like The Long Halloween, Nightfall, and Batman The Dark Knight Returns, rather than newer takes from writers like Scott Snyder, Grant Morrison, and Tom King, who have taken Batman to other depths. Taking it back to Woman of Tomorrow, it is a different take on the Supergirl mythos, a more evolved version of Kara. Years ago, I was a regular reader of Supergirl comics, and aside from the conflicts faced from villains, her internal struggle dealt more with her comparisons to Superman rather than her own personal values. I'm not saying every story is like this, but when speaking to non-comic readers, they tend to see Supergirl as a female version of Superman. What Tom King did was define the character of Kara separately from Clark, dissecting her time as a teen during the destruction of Krypton, interspersed during this epic journey through space. This revised origin tapped into the trauma-inducing experience that Kara suffered. Argo City managed to dislodge itself during the destruction of the planet, yet managed to survive under an atmospheric bubble. But this could not go on forever as Argo would not survive. People began to die from various causes, including poisoning from the kryptonite in the asteroid. Kara had to bury bodies, and after the loss of her mother, her father built a spaceship from the remaining parts to save her. She left Argo with that pain and suffering, which in some ways jaded her. Additionally, she is written as experienced and resourceful, such as in the use of red kryptonite to restore her powers briefly while she was powerless due to the long exposure under the red sun. There is more to this, including showing her experience, intelligence, and demeanor that are significantly different from Clark but equally heroic. Reintroducing Supergirl to mainstream audiences while defining her as her own person will be key to the way the new DCU can separate itself from its past and its competitors, as well as fulfilling the need to evolve comic book movies including the need to build up new, diverse heroes and role models, leading me to my next point. But before I get into that, if you guys are enjoying the video, do me a favor and hit that like button so we can get these stories out to more viewers like you. But for now, let's get back to it.
I used to want to save the world, to end war and bring peace to mankind. But then I glimpsed the darkness that lives within their light, and learned that inside every one of them, there will always be both. A choice each must make for themselves, something no hero will ever defeat.
Wonder Woman is an essential character in DC, much like Batman or Superman, but often she is placed behind in media such as movies and TV. Sure, there was a Linda Carter series, but after that point, there was a drought in representation of the character outside of comics and some animation. It wasn't until the DCU and Batman vs Superman where we saw a modern take on the character. Gal Gadot is great in this role and has shown many different and inspiring sides to the character, despite not always being supported by good writing. Around the same time, Marvel released Captain Marvel in the same way as Wonder Woman. Captain Marvel has been built up as a center character in the comics in recent years. The need for women-led films is there, but the lack of strong characters to carry these movies is also an issue. While we have seen many female comic characters, including Black Widow or Harley Quinn, there are 10 times that amount of male characters in both heroic and villainous roles. I can't say it's the fault of mainstream audiences not accepting women in lead roles, but perhaps it's the fault of the studios not really giving these characters strong writing. For example, Ripley from the Alien movies was written with the intent that they were going to cast a man, but chose to cast Weaver. Since then, the character has become one of the most significant characters in movies. It has to do with the fact that the writing was written without any gender bias, going so far as to be blatantly written for a man, yet portrayed as a woman. This encouraged the idea that Ripley was a no-nonsense action hero, regardless of her gender. This is what Supergirl can do for the DCU. In addition to providing another center female lead that can be used in other female roles, she can provide diversity without bias. Tom King's work subtly focuses on the fact that she's a woman in favor of pushing her inner and outer strength. This Supergirl is filled with inner turmoil and trauma that can at times make her come off as jaded and uncaring, yet she is valiant and stoic, unafraid to do what she needs to accomplish the goal of helping others. She is a person, not a mimicry of Superman, but rather her own character.
Humanity does this to us.
Not if we show them a better path.
You still believe?
Just because someone stumbles, loses their way, it doesn't mean they're lost forever. Sometimes we all need a little help.
Superman is a beloved character and a global icon. Over decades, he has been accompanied by supporting characters like Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, who have become well known in their own right. However, characters like Batman have surpassed Superman in expanding his supporting cast, which includes Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, and Jason Todd, known respectively as Nightwing, Batgirl, and Red Hood. Together, these characters make up the Bat family and enrich Batman's world. Although live-action movies do not always showcase this aspect well, many animated movies and games emphasize the importance of the Bat family. In the comics, Superman also has an expanded cast of supporting characters, including Steel, Superboy, both the clone and his son, and Supergirl as some examples. Although these characters have grown in the comics, they have been challenging to adapt to the screen. Recently, the CW series and Titans have shown Connor Kent and Jonathan Kent, but these depictions will no longer be supported in the DC universe. Therefore, the success of Supergirl is critical to the development of future Superman projects. It is important to distinguish Supergirl from Superman, but having her as support in future films, whether in the crossover films or Superman solo films, it is crucial for introducing other characters like Connor Kent. For example, the clone of Superman could appear in a Teen Titans project or even in the season of Waller, who could be in charge of Cadmus in the DC universe. The potential for better stories related to Superman largely depends on how audiences receive Supergirl in her solo film. While I believe that the DCU is fresh and has potential to explore many avenues of stories and characters, it is crucial that these early projects do well to satisfy fans who have stuck around despite some of the more lackluster projects, and also to attract new viewers. Supergirl is the one to watch, as a well-done adaptation of this book has the potential to expand the audience of these movies beyond its current reach. That being said, and as always, take care and have an awesome day. And to learn about some of the other characters in the new DCU, Click right here.
Barks and growls. He hates me.
Go up to your quarters.
But I didn't do anything wrong.
We'll talk later.